This guy's going to knock him out. He's taking more money.
Miami, and he wanted to shake Morrell's hand. Morrell's not shaking his hand. Okay, he's not getting bullied around like he tried to.
Where does that stem from? Where's the bad blood between you, and is it with David himself, his father, the whole camp?
Well, basically, we went to Los Angeles, and they started trying to be bullies and trying to be tough guys,
Here we go, guys.
What's his size?
Let's go back a little.
David Morrell Jr.'s manager, Luis Decubas Sr. strongly believes that David Benavidez' emotional outburst at the final press conference is a clear sign that he knows deep down he's about to lose. Decubas claims that Benavidez' mental state is crumbling under the pressure of facing a dangerous opponent like Morrell. According to him, Benavidez has always been a confident and aggressive fighter, but his behavior at the press conference exposed his fear. While Morrell remained calm, smiling, and composed, Benavidez appeared frustrated and unsettled. Instead of focusing on his opponent, he directed his aggression toward Decubas, staring him down as if trying to intimidate him. Decubas found this amusing and pointed out that he isn't the one Benavidez should be worried about. In his view, Benavidez' usual bullying tactics won't work this time because Morrell isn't like the smaller fighters he has dominated in the past. He is bigger, stronger, and technically superior, which is why Decubas believes Benavidez now realizes he's in serious trouble. Decubas also took a shot at Benavidez' career, claiming that most of his success has come from fighting smaller opponents moving up in weight. He listed fighters like Demetrius Andrade, David Lemieux, and Kieron Davis, who all started in lower weight classes before facing Benavidez. Even Caleb Plant, one of Benavidez' biggest wins, was a natural 168-pounder rather than a true light heavyweight. Decubas argued that Benavidez has benefited from careful matchmaking, where his father and trainer, Jose Benavidez Sr. has strategically chosen opponents to protect his record. He pointed out that the only time Benavidez fought someone his own size was against Oleksandr Gvozdyk last year. However, Gvozdyk was already past his prime, having retired for 4 years before making a comeback. In Decubas' eyes, that win didn't prove much because it wasn't the same Gvozdyk who once knocked out Adonis Stevenson or fought Artur Beterbiev in his prime. Now, for the first time, Benavidez is up against someone who is not only his size, but also younger, faster, and more technically skilled, which is why Decubas is confident that Morrell will win. Decubas boldly predicted that Morrell will not only beat Benavidez, but will knock him out in devastating fashion. He described Morrell as a different animal and emphasized that he has advantages in size, power, and skill that Benavidez has never faced before. He also highlighted the atmosphere in Morrell's training camp, saying that his fighter and his team were relaxed, happy, and excited about the fight, while Benavidez appeared tense and on edge. According to Decubas, this shows the difference in mentality between the two fighters. He believes that once the fight starts, Benavidez will realize that he's in over his head and will struggle to cope with Morrell's ability. Decubas also questioned how Benavidez will handle defeat, stating that if he gets knocked out, it could be a major setback for him both mentally and physically. He speculated that Benavidez might make excuses for his performance, just as he did after his unimpressive showing against Gvozdyk last year. In addition to Morrell's physical and technical advantages, Decubas also pointed out the mental toughness that Cuban fighters possess. He explained that fighters like Morrell grow up in a much tougher environment than someone like Benavidez. In Cuba, boxers don't have the luxury of picking their opponents or avoiding dangerous fights. They are forced to fight the best competition available from an early age, and they do so without the financial comforts that many fighters in other countries enjoy. Decubas described Morrell and other Cuban boxers as born killers because they have been fighting for survival since they were children. He argued that this kind of upbringing gives them an edge in high-pressure situations like this fight. In his opinion, Morrell is completely fearless and will not be intimidated by Benavidez in any way. With everything on the line, Decubas believes that Morrell is fully prepared to take over the division and prove that he is the superior fighter. Decubas further criticized Benavidez's reputation as a so-called monster, arguing that his aggressive style has only worked against smaller, less powerful opponents. He claimed that Benavidez's past opponents lacked the physicality to challenge him, allowing him to overwhelm them with pressure and volume punching. However, Morrell is not only bigger but also possesses a refined skill set that makes him a much greater threat. Unlike Benavidez's previous opponent, Morrell has the ability to fight at multiple ranges, control the pace of the fight, and counter effectively. Decubas believes this will be the key difference in the fight. While Benavidez relies on overwhelming his opponent with sheer aggression, Morrell has the technical ability to neutralize that pressure and make Benavidez pay for his mistakes. Another key factor Decubas highlighted is Morrell's superior defensive ability. He pointed out that while Benavidez has an exciting offensive style, his defense is full of holes. Fighters like Caleb Plant and even a past Prime Gvozdyk were able to land clean shots on Benavidez, exposing his vulnerabilities. Morrell, on the other hand, is a much sharper defensive fighter who can slip punches, move efficiently around the ring, and counter with precision. Decubas predicted that Benavidez will struggle to land clean shots on Morrell and will instead find himself getting hit with powerful counters whenever he tries to engage. He warned that if Benavidez comes forward recklessly, he might walk straight into a knockout punch, which would put an end to his monster persona once and for all. Decubas also dismissed the idea that Benavidez's experience in big fights gives him an advantage. He argued that Morrell's extensive amateur background, including his time in the Cuban boxing system, has already prepared him for high-pressure situations. In his view, amateur experience at the elite level is just as valuable as professional experience, and Morrell's skill level is already on par with the best in the division. He pointed out that Morrell has dominated every opponent he has faced in the professional ranks, showcasing both power and technical brilliance. Decubas believes this fight will be another demonstration of Morrell's superiority and that he will rise to the occasion, proving he belongs at the top of the super middleweight division. Ultimately, Decubas is convinced that this fight will mark the beginning of a new era in boxing. He sees Morrell as the future of the division, a fighter with the talent, size, and mentality to take over as the best super middleweight in the world. He believes that once Morrell defeats Benavidez, the boxing world will have no choice but to recognize him as the new top contender for undisputed status. While Benavidez has enjoyed years of hype, Decubas argues that the reality of this fight will expose his limitations. He is confident that Morrell will not only win, but do so in dominant fashion, leaving no doubt about who the superior fighter is. As fight night approaches, the tension between Team Morrell and Team Benavidez has reached its boiling point, with both camps firing verbal shots at each other. Luis Decubas Sr.'s bold statements only add fuel to the fire, making this clash even more personal. He is not just predicting a win for Morrell, he is guaranteeing that Benavidez will be exposed and knocked out in front of the world. If Morrell delivers on this promise, it will send shockwaves through the boxing world and completely shift the landscape of the super middleweight division. Benavidez, who has long been seen as an unstoppable force, would suddenly find himself facing serious doubts about his future at the top level. Meanwhile, Morrell's stock would skyrocket, positioning him as a legitimate superstar and the next big thing in boxing. This isn't just another fight, it's a battle for dominance, for legacy, and for the right to be recognized as the true future of the division. However, if Benavidez manages to prove Decubas wrong and withstands the challenge, it could be a defining moment in his career. A victory over Morrell, especially a decisive one, would silence the doubters and solidify his reputation as one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport. But the real question remains, can he handle the size, power, and skill of Morrell, or will his aggressive style finally meet its match? The stakes couldn't be higher, and the outcome of this fight will have massive implications. No matter what happens, fans are in for an unforgettable showdown, one that could determine the future of the super middleweight division. The only thing left to do is wait for the first bell to ring and see who emerges victorious in this high-stakes war.